For each match, I'm going to break down first the team that I oppose and how that matches up to my team, and then I'll be going over what I think their strengths and weaknesses are. So for my first opponent, Negasant, he had this team, and it's pretty poison heavy, and you can see that actually just using Psychic and ground moves will cover the entire team. So my thought process going into this matchup was to use my Toxicroak and my two Psychic users, which were Venomoth and Hello Ninetales. With this team having a Venusaur and a lot of poison types, so I definitely wasn't going to consider bringing a Azumarill. And with Tentacruel having the Venusaur in place, it also wasn't a very good option, as well as the Venomoth Confusion user. So for this matchup, I also only managed to record one game out of two. So this is that game. So we start out with a Venomoth against a Skuntank, and at this point I'm not sure what moveset he has. I wanted to switch to the Toxicroak just in case he wasn't going to be baiting me with a Crunch, but I managed to press Poison Fang by accident and set off one of his shields. Turns out he doesn't really have the Crunch Flamethrower set, so he decided to just use Flamethrower. I decided to switch out, and in this case that was not the best switch because I had a bad matchup. However, I don't think he knew what Toxicroak's movesets were, so he decided to shield and just kill me off there. He used a lower energy move, so he could save more for the next Pokemon, which in this case, he's going to use a Shadow Ball against my Lone Ninetales, which is a bad matchup for the Golbat. Here I didn't press the Psyshock immediately just because I wanted to build up some more energy for whatever was next. And then I was a tad bit late, took out the Golbat. So he's down to his Skuntank. We already used our shields, so I'm going to let that kill me. And then for the Venomoth, I'm going to build up a little more energy before using a Silver Wind. And luckily, the next matchup is Toxicroak. And here, because I build up that energy a little bit and get the Poison Fang off, that's going to help me finish the Toxicroak. So there were definitely a few mistakes we each made that game. For me, I didn't really start with a great lead, and then I decided to switch, which might have ended poorly if he hadn't used some of his shields early. And that was kind of Negasant's downfall that game. He shielded on a Poison Fang pretty early on, as well as the Sludge Bomb from the Toxicroak on his Golbat, which also wasn't the most efficient shield. So really, that might have not really been my game to win, for being honest. But overall, pretty good game. For my next match against Squawk Dirty to me, looking at his team, it's very balanced. You have the Toxicroak counter, you have a Azumarill and its counter, you have a Poison Dark type, and then you have one of the newest additions to the meta, which is Frostlass. So when I consider what I was going to put in, I had recently been practicing with the Venomoth, Skuntank, and Azumarill core, and with this matchup, I feel like I could still win with that core team that I've been practicing with. I also wanted to keep Skuntank in case the Frostlass made an appearance, because I didn't really have much experience against Frostlass, and it would also be useful against Venusaur, as would Venomoth be against Venusaur, to counter the fact that I did have an Azumarill that would be weak to many parts of his team, so that's how I rolled forward. So for this game, we both start off with Skuntank, which is widely known as one of the safest matchups, safest leads, and I'm not sure what moveset he has again, and it looks like we both released once we get to Flamethrower, so I banked on it being a Flamethrower. Turns out we both have Flamethrowers ready and loaded. And so here I wanted to switch to a Azumarill because I thought he'd do another Flamethrower because he probably has Sludge Bomb. Unfortunately, I pressed Crunch, which I'm not sure if that's a glitch, but anyhow. He doesn't shield it. I decide that I'm already kind of behind, so I'm not going to risk throwing out a shield here and just use someone else to clean up the mess. And so either one of these guys would have needed a shield to deal with the charge move because it's either Sludge Bomb or Flamethrower. And so I use a shield because I need to catch up here. Build up an energy, build enough energy for an attack. It's going to be Venusaur, which is a terrible matchup for Azumarill, but at this point, I'm not sure what his third Pokemon is, so I don't want to switch into Venomoth. So I'm just going to let the Venusaur die. And here it's a very good matchup for Venomoth because it can sufficiently kill the Venusaur while also charging up its energy for the charge attacks. And so since I'm down to my last Pokemon, I decide I'm not going to outright kill him first. I'm going to build up enough energy to get almost 2 charge moves in a row. So I get off the Silver Wind, and with this Venomoth Ditto, it's usually whoever has less health left is going to lose. But since I had an extra charge move, I was able to get to him first. So that's how the first game ended. So for the next game, I figured he probably wouldn't use another Skuntank lead. And in this case, it's going to be a Frostlass, which is a decent matchup for Azumarill because he doesn't have any poison moves, and his fast attack is going to be resisted by the water type that is Azumarill. In this case, I decided to first shield the Shadow Ball, which is going to charge pretty quickly due to Powder Snow, I believe, being a very fast energy generating move. So here I decide to actually take the Shadow Ball just to see how bad it'll be, and I don't want to use 2 shields that early. And this doesn't actually turn out to be a horrible deal of damage. Here he brings in the Venusaur. I'm not going to take it, so I decide to switch since I can switch still. And I'm also going to repeat my strategy last game where I save up more energy, thinking that Venusaur wouldn't do much damage to me. Solar Beam is double resisted, but it is a very high damage output move, although it's very slow to charge. But here I have a Silver Wind saved up, and I managed to get off 2 against this Skuntank. So that's going to use another one of his shields. At this point, I have the lead in shields and in Pokemon numbers until now. And since I do have the extra shield and the lead in terms of Pokemon, I decided to actually, I guess I do not use it because I know that the Skuntank can finish out the game, especially with the Frostlass in the back. So I'm going to let the Skuntank damage me as I generate more energy, and the Crunch is going to win the game. So with Frostlass's weakness to Dark, that's how I finished with the Skuntank as the closer in this situation. So for my third matchup, we have a pretty similar team to last time, except for the Poison Dark is swapped into a Drapion, and then instead of a Venusaur, he has a Togetic, which I guess could have had a extrasensory fast move or a hidden power that he just thought would be very useful. And so again, I'm going to use my core 3 of Venomoth, Skuntank, and Azumarill, which shouldn't have any clear problems from Krika's team. So heads up, again, I forgot to record all the matches, all the games in this match, so this is just the only game that we got. So the first matchup is going to be Skuntank against its counter. So we're going to switch into Venomoth. And here we have in terms of offense, not going to be a great matchup for the Venomoth because both of its moves are resisted by Ghost and Poison and Bug types. So here, I had already used Silver Winds a few times during this tournament, so I figured I might be able to get off a stat boost. And so I decided to just have some fun this game and shield my Venomoth, Silver Wind up, and maybe I can get off a stat boost. So here we see I actually did get a stat boost that went through the shield. So here's some evidence that you can't prevent a stat boost just by shielding. So, and here because of my defensive stat boost, I'm gonna get off a Poison Fang before I die, as well as another Confusion. So that stat boost helped me take care of 2 different Pokemon. So finally I die, but not before getting off one more last boosted Confusion. And then because his shields are down, I'm going to use Flamethrower. So that's a game. So got some luck on my side with that Flamethrower, with that Silver Wind stat boost for sure. So here's the 4th and final round of the tournament. This is Hugs' team. And so here's a SmackDown T-Tar, which I had always kind of been concerned about but never practiced against. So I wasn't sure how exactly my core of Azumarill, Venomoth, and Skuntank would turn out against Tyranitar. I did think the Bug Buzz on Venomoth would be super effective enough to kill it, and Bubble on Azumarill would be also very useful into the Play Rough. So for this first round, I decided to go with that squad. I also didn't want to use Toxicroak just because of the double Moth being concerning. In terms of Tentacruel, I didn't want to use it too early because I didn't know how much he would use his shields. So because I was primarily worried about his T-Tar, I decided to use Azumarill as my lead, which wasn't a great matchup here because of his Poison Jab fast move, and I'm going to deal neutral damage to him, so it's super effective. So here, I had faced so many so many Sludge Bomb variants of Skuntank, both in this tournament and against some practice partners, that I forgot that Crunch was going to be a good shield bait move, especially when paired with Flamethrower. And so against Azumarill, it's a good fake out just because Azumarill has to be careful about Sludge Bomb. So here, I completely used my shields wrong. I managed to take him out first, but damage is already done. I break down my shields 0 to 2. And so here I'm going to get rid of my Azumarill after I get off a Charge Beam, get off an Ice Beam. But I now have no great counter to Tyranitar, especially because he has shields. He has one shield, and so Bug Buzz can't do anything on my Venomoth. So here, I figured it would be T-Tar, so I switched out to Venomoth, and this is literally my first time ever facing a Smackdown T-Tar. And the Venomoth just gets shredded by Smackdown, so I can't even get off my Bug Buzz. And then it has the Stone Edge charged, I reused my shields, so, you know, the Skuntank's down, but honestly I don't think I could have won that anyway. So for the second round, I felt that I would have a chance against Hugs if I didn't lead with the Azumarill, because my problem was that I used up my main T-Tar counter very early on, so I saved it for the middle. So in this case, I managed to start off with a good lead matchup, and I used the Azumarill locked on to the T-Tar. I opted to shield the Stone Edge because I hadn't really seen it before. Again, this is just so much an experience dealing with the Smackdown T-Tar. I managed to kill it, but I used up one of my shields, which might have not been the best investment because it was neutral damage. So here I'm just trying to do some damage before I die, but I don't even get to die properly. He gets to build some more energy afterwards, which is going to be essential against combating my other two Pokemon. So here now Skuntank doesn't have any true bad matchups against my lineup. I'm going to bait out one of his shields using Crunch, but he does the same to me again. So I keep falling for this trick. And now he has an actual Flamethrower, so he gets it off before me. And then he's going to get off one more charge attack. I wanted to use a Poison Fang before he even got off a charge attack, but then we did it on the same move. And then I basically waste this Poison Fang. But with Dustox in the end, I don't think I would have been able to damage him to kill him. So my main mistake there was just using my shields really incorrectly that whole match. The Crunch just absolutely mind-gamed me because I hadn't played enough of them. And then with the T-Tar, I didn't have many secure options because 2 out of my 3 Pokemon in my main core weren't in good matchups against T-Tar, so just planning for that T-Tar sort of makes me up completely off my game. So it's funny because before the tournament, I knew Smackdown T-Tar wasn't going to be a good matchup for me. With both of my Toxicroak counters, which were Lola Ninetales and Venomoth, being really weak to Smackdown. And then my Skuntank had all of its moves resisted by T-Tar. Tentacruel, I mean, it's just so hard to use if it's not in a closer position, and T-Tar isn't a true closer, as far as I could read from Reddit and whatnot. Then finally, I could use Toxicroak, but Hugs really planned for that because he had 2 Toxicroak counters, which was kind of a dissuader for me to use Toxicroak in this pinch situation. So I ended up just using like my default team, and it didn't really work out that well because I didn't realize how super effective, how much damage that Smackdown would do to Venomoth. So I didn't even get to use a Bug Buzz against it to experiment with that. So moral of the story is, if you know your team doesn't match up very well against something, you should go out of your way to adjust your team for the tournament and not think, oh, maybe I won't face my bad matchup in the tournament, because, you know, odds are if you face one, then you're just going to lose pretty easily, and that's really what resulted in my matchup against Hugs. But definitely thank you to the Uptown tournament organizer for hosting us. It was my first time being in Uptown Park, so it was pretty cool seeing that area of town. Never been there, so it was a new experience. And the people there are pretty cool. Made some new connections, new PvP sparring partners, so that's definitely an advantage of going to these tournaments. You're going to meet more people who are interested in the same things as you. You're going to be able to run ideas by them, see how they think, make new friends in general. So definitely would recommend traveling around to different tournaments. It's definitely a very interesting experience meeting new playstyles and new people in general. So yeah, overall great tournament. It was great meeting everyone there. So peace out.